Captain Paladin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, kind Samacron, and thank you for the kind and genteel welcome to the podcast.
I wasn't particularly genteel.
I think it was.
Hmm. I mean, I'll take
Hmm.
your word for it. I'm not gonna.
If you weren't trying to be genteel, then I'll take it as an accidental genteel welcome to the podcast, and that is good too.
Hmm. Okay. Fair enough. I'm not gonna argue. They say men are
Great.
really bad at taking compliments. I'm just gonna take this one.
There you go. That's the spirit. Take the compliment as offered and don't think about it twice. Done.
Yep.
Uh-huh. So, we're at the time of the year where our temperatures are starting to align
That seems
ish.
right. I mean, what kind of weather do you have at the minute?
It is currently 50 degrees Fahrenheit outside.
79 here.
Ah, we're getting closer, but not quite there yet.
Not quite
No,
there yet.
no. Perhaps in April or May we'll be a little bit closer. Yep. But there is that
Perhaps.
wonderful time of year, twice a year, where we have the same weather
Well,
outside, and it's glorious.
I think that time might be approaching because next week is daylight savings, and so the time streams get all mixed up, and then our weather gets confused. That's kind of how that works in my head, at least.
Yeah, I'm not a weatherologist, but I think I agree with that take on how this works.
Uh huh.
I didn't really have the patience to go to 8 years of weatherology school, so I'll just defer to the experts on that.
Yeah. Doctors is 7, weatherology is 8. It's
Yeah,
very tricky, very prestigious course. You can only get into it by going to your local news show and asking to be the weather person for a year.
yeah,
You
and then they educate you for 8 years.
know.
And I mean, let's be honest, it's harder to be a weather person than it is to be a doctor. Someone comes in and they're like, I need my kidney removed. And it's like, okay, bam, done. Someone's like, tell me the weather for the next week. And you're like,
You want me to predict
uh,
the future?
this,
Hello.
this is, it's so, okay, I'll do my best. It's so much harder. So much harder to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, doctors, you just need like a knife. Everyone's got knives. I've got one in my hand. I'm fidgeting with it right now.
yeah.
Weatherology people, they used to have like weather stations across the planet keeping track of all that data. It's a lot more expensive.
A lot more expensive, a lot more time consuming. And even with all of this fancy data collection you have, you're still probably wrong.
Still probably
It
wrong.
sucks. It's
Yeah.
a terrible, terrible, terrible job, and only the best of us can be weatherologists, I believe.
Didn't did to peek behind the meme, or the bit I should say. Didn't a bunch of like meteorologists just get fired in America as part of like government efficiency stuff? Because I saw something like, "Hey, we're going into like cyclone territory and we're shutting down uh, the people that monitor that." Like,
Sure. There's a lot going on with federal organizations just getting staff cut and budgets cut and everything right now. So I hadn't heard that particular story, but it would not be surprised me if that was the case. No.
okay, cool.
Yeah. I did see a fun story where it's like they laid off a bunch of people in air traffic control and federal airports and stuff. And then a week later, Elon Musk was like, "So, anybody want to come back? Because like we overdid this." And it's like, huh? Oh, wow.
The
I
the
mean,
the please come back that I saw was like, we don't have enough really top tier air traffic controllers. So if you're a top tier air traffic controller and you've retired, please consider coming back if you're open to it. Like,
oh,
and he's
that's
like
different then.
specifically
Okay.
looking for people who retired, not
Yeah.
looking to rehire the people they fired.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, they fired too many people, had staffing issues, and are trying to like fix that problem because turns out we do need people in that position across the country.
Turns out.
Yeah. It's just, can we just measure twice and cut once? Can we just like do a quick little look-see-do at maybe somebody predicting what will happen if we do a thing, and then it's like, oh, that's probably an overcut right there. Good thing we didn't do that, and then you do it right the first time instead of it being like, oh, we screwed up.
They did.
You know what I mean?
They totally measured once. They measured the
Yeah.
AI's response once and then said that's good. And let's have it sort through people and fire them. Like,
Maybe.
I did see some
Not good
headlines that
enough,
was
I
like
say.
AI was doing that, which is like, ugh, gross.
Ooh, I mean, it's the future and it sucks, but
Mm-hmm.
yes, it is gross. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Anywho's.
Anywho's.
Anywho's. Anything going on in the StarCraft world this week? We keep asking this question.
Um, yeah. Two things that I have of note.
Hmm.
One, EWC's countdown time for its final two slots for the Esports World Cup finished, and they did
Oh,
not replace those cards with games. They just say coming soon.
they're like, we're giving ourselves an artificial time constraint on this, and we didn't hit our artificial time constraint.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So the fact that they couldn't fill that with StarCraft 2 when that is something that should have been easily worked out ages ago means to me, even though the StarCraft is not there and nothing else is there, StarCraft is not going to be at EWC. That's
You don't think there's like last second negotiations with Microsoft being like, let's figure this out. We're close. We just need some time to like hammer out some details.
I think Microsoft saw the budget that they were going for StarCraft's esports scene and said no, right? I think they were seeing not a good return on that, and because new owners bought the thing in and immediately want to try and make as much money off it as they can, they were like, "That's an expense we can do without."
Ah,
Because that's why there's nothing else. There's no GSLs. There's no Katowice. Absolutely nothing. There's no
yeah,
official prize pool money coming from Blizzard anymore. Blizzard is now owned by Microsoft. So
that's true. We didn't have Katowice last week or last year, right?
no, we did
Oh, okay.
Katowice 2024. I'm pretty sure we did. Intel, yeah. Oh, that's the Counter Strike. That's not what I want. Counter Strike had Katowice last year. That's
I believe that. Yeah.
why should no? I don't want to accept your cookies. I'm pretty sure we did, which I know that means a lot. Let me just. It's true. Who won? Yeah, we did. We did. I see it.
Yeah,
Here.
we did.
Yep, Sarah won it.
Yeah, $500,000 prize pool, February 2024. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And Katowice came and went this year, and StarCraft was not there. So.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no Protoss made it into the quarterfinals.
Oh yeah.
It is rough out there. Okay. Anyway, okay, but here's my thing. Like, does Microsoft have to like pay $1 million to get StarCraft 2 into the Esports World Cup?
I mean, they probably.
I'm
have
pretty
to
sure
pay
the prize pool
someone.
comes from the Esports World Cup, right? They do the monies.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what's the holdup? I don't get it.
I don't know.
Like,
I
what's
did
the difference? Who owns it? Because I mean, I imagine.
You expect the Saudis to foot the bill for this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did see. I don't remember who it was. Possibly Zombie Grub or someone who I feel like would have a very intimate connection with the esports manager at Blizzard. I saw something that was like, yeah, so maybe actively trying to shut down the scene by deliberately saying, no, you cannot play our games at your event. Because if the Saudis are footing the bill and it's all just coming from like their sponsors and stuff, like that's how they make their money and they pass it on as prize pool. Very normal stuff.
Yeah. Right.
There's no reason they couldn't have StarCraft there for that reason, right?
Right.
Unless,
That's what the question I'm asking.
right.
Like, why?
And so maybe Microsoft is going, no, we do not want our esports. Microsoft doesn't have a lot of other big esports. Like
Right.
Halo, I guess it's popular, but it's not exactly a game I think of as competitive. You know?
Yeah.
What else do they have? Maybe they're just not interested in having a esports department.
I guess. I mean, I guess you could assume that the esports whole thing peaked and it's on a downhill trajectory and it's never returning to its former glory. But I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I think there are a bunch of kids still playing video games and still loving video games. And
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think esports is dead.
No, but maybe just all the IP that Microsoft owns, they're like garbage, all of it.
Maybe.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, I saw a point the other day too that's like, can they just tell us they're not doing anything so that we can
Right.
like maybe start getting some crowd-funded events and doing stuff to replace it?
So I found a Reddit article. Activision Blizzard and Microsoft laid off the majority of the esports team today. There's about 12 people left on the team. Microsoft waited to the CDL, which I think is like an Overwatch esports thing. Staff came back from Boston Major this weekend before informing them. That was a
When
year
was
ago.
this?
A year ago.
Oh, a whole year ago. Wow.
So
Okay.
all the stuff in 2024 was probably already planned, and they just didn't cancel those events.
It
But
was just inertia. Yeah.
yeah, and so I don't think anyone in Microsoft and Blizzard is actively working on new esports events for StarCraft.
Got it.
And if that's their entire team being laid off, possibly anything else as well.
Yeah, totally. So again, I just like them to be like, hey, we're not planning on doing anything for 2025 for
Yeah,
StarCraft 2.
look,
Here, we're being straight about it. Here you go. This is the reality. Thank you.
I would absolutely like that. But at the same time, they don't want to have to put out the tweet that says we're killing your favorite esports. It's like they don't want to have that. So by just not mentioning it, you can go, well, maybe. But maybe.
I know.
It just looked better for them, is my point. Even though
For
it's,
now, but you don't think people are extra pissed after a whole year this goes on and then they're like, oh, yeah. It's like, well, you could have told us back in like January, you jerks.
I think it's possible for professional players to raise a stink like that and get people on their sides.
Yeah.
I think viewers, the majority of people are viewers, if the next, like, they don't track StarCraft super close. So they just go, okay, I'll just, I'm not going to, maybe I'll watch a stream here and there, but I mainly just care for the next big tournament. And so they're just like, all right, cool, I finished this tournament. I'll come back when the next one hits. If the next one never hits, they just never come back. Right? And
They're not actively looking for it.
right,
Yeah.
and then in a year and a half, they go, "Huh, it's been a while," and they go, I guess there's nothing else," and then just move on, assuming that the idea that there would be no more tournaments was an issue they just missed, right? And like the time is gone.
Yeah. Time is gone.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they just string us along for the rest of the year or if they do be straight with us in the next couple of months, which I think would be nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
So the other thing we can talk about is Soup Live,
Yeah.
which, boy, does that show go on later than I remember.
Yeah.
It finished at like 1 o'clock in the morning for you.
It sure did.
That's mental.
It usually does.
Well, daylight savings is coming, so it'll only be midnight next time.
Yeah, that'll help a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rogue versus Beyond was the final best of 7,
It was, yeah.
and we nearly had a reverse sweep. Excellent series, right?
Yes,
It was a lot of
yes.
fun. I hate that CVT. That was really interesting to watch for like a couple games, but Rogue going like mass overseer, a million changelings, really boring.
Yeah.
Really kind of disgusting and kind of broken. Where it's just like, well, if we just have infinite changelings, the Terran is continuously wrapped up trying to like click on all of them, and it's like, okay, there's no resource cost on this other than like energy, and you have 50
Supply.
of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
and
what do
supply.
they do? They EMP, like Beyond EMP'd a bunch of overseers, and it's like, okay, in any normal game you'd be like, that's probably a waste of time. But here it's all he could do, and even then, he had 2 Ninuses going up in his base, Lurkers popping out, and then a Mutatex switch, which should not work, and maybe it was like, okay, it's Beyond's fault for not having a bunch of Widow Mines just everywhere for the mutas, but it's like, against everything else, I think Tanks is the better option against what we saw. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, Tanks is the option, and then he overmade Tanks, and then Mutas were amazing all of a sudden, and he made Mutas. It's a response to Turtle Terran, though. It's like, if the Terran wants to sit there and wall up and build a bunch of turrets and planetaries and stuff, it's like, okay, well, either I can do what Rogue did in one of these games, which is throw a million Ultralisks and Banelings and Hydras and stuff at you, Or I can do this. I can wait you out. I can take the entire map. I can screw with you with changelings forever. And
Yeah.
then when you slip up, because you're gonna slip up eventually, and I am rogue, I will take advantage of that. I will crush
Right.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
99% of that I have a problem with. It's the 1,000 overseers and a bajillion changelings that I think is just a little broken.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I mean,
Right? Because like you rapid fire changeling spam, you're
yeah,
spawning 1,000 of them for like a second's click on the thing, but Terran has to manually click dozens. Like, sure, you can take out a wave, like a chunk with a tank splash, but the rest you've got to
yeah,
click on individually.
right.
And so they're just going to slip on through eventually, and you're going to get free scouting of the entire base, right?
Yeah, so
And,
go attack the Zerg instead of sitting on your ass for 30 minutes. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't feel like 30 minutes is when that happened. I feel like he was making excessive overseers at about 9.5 minutes, right? Like, sure, Bjorn could have been more aggressive a little bit sooner, right?
Yep.
But I feel like getting into that position was very easy for Rogue, right?
Sure, but I mean, the games that Beyond won, he's multi-pronged harassing. He's in 3 places at once. He's microing his face off on the top and the bottom, and he's dropping. And Rogue cannot catch his breath, and he dies that way. And it's like, wow, okay, that looked amazing from Beyond. And then Beyond doesn't do that. He just kind of hangs back for a while and takes a fourth and takes a fifth and builds some planetaries. And Rogue's like, oh, we're doing this. I like doing this more than I like having you punish me on 8 different fronts at the same time. That's a lot harder to deal with. Cool. I feel like that's what happened more than anything else. I don't think the Zerg can dictate that. I don't think the Zerg can be like, we're going to play a game today where I make 50 overseers. I think it's a reaction to how the Terran is playing.
Maybe. I feel like you're trying to do a lot of like timing attacks and then splitting up into like little pokes and prods and stuff on that map is going to be very difficult. It's a big map, right?
Yes.
And so I feel like maybe Bjorn got stuck on 4 bases where he would have preferred to keep expanding. Just because Zerg had already gotten everywhere. It's like, okay, he was turtling a little bit and he wanted to do stuff, but like, you can't at that point. Like, it was 12 minutes and Creep was on his side of the map, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
It was 15 minutes and Rogue was taking his bases. He wasn't mining from them, but he had the bases, you know?
Yes, he did, because he had the room to do it.
Yeah, I get it. It's give and take there.
I mean, I agree with you. It's boring. Like, I don't like watching 50 overseers fly around and drop changelings and run around and watch them die one by one over and over and over again. That's not fun. I'm not arguing against that at all.
Right. I don't know. I'd like to see it against Clem, because Clem.
Which apparently happened. Yeah.
Did it?
Laughing Games said the first time he saw the strategy that Rogue used was against Clem at something.
When? Where?
I don't know. I tried to press him on it. He couldn't remember. So, I mean, if we look at a Ligulac and see when these two played, we might be able to figure it out.
Maybe. I feel like it would also work very well against Clem's, like, world champion winning strategy, where it's like, be very quick and have a ton of ghosts and stuff, and ghost widow mines and all that stuff.
Yeah, and Liberators and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you would think Liberators would do really well with their splash against Overseers, but they just spread out too quickly. Right? They don't stack for very long.
And plus there's like a bunch of Corruptors hiding in there anyway.
Also true.
Yeah. Ligulac says, let's see, match history. Man, he's made almost $1 million playing StarCraft. Not bad.
Good for him.
Good for him. Ligulac really struggles on my computer. I don't know what it is.
They played at Holy Mo League in January.
Maybe that was it?
And
Is that the last time they played?
before that, October at Wardy TV.
Must have been.
Yeah. So Holy Mo League 237. Where do they play? Oh, they played in round 2, not even like the quarterfinals. Where can we get these VODs?
I know. Where can we get the VODs? Where can we get the replays?
Okay, VODs on YouTube, very easy to find by the looks of it.
Okay.
Replays, I have no idea.
Right. But VODs are good enough.
Yeah, maybe you could DM someone.
For the replays, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see if it worked against Clem, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's something we'd have to sit down and watch the video.
Well, or skip to the end, sure.
Well, okay, Clem won. So
Okay.
did it win? But was it the game he lost? I don't know. We'd have to sit there and watch the video.
Yes, we would. A little bit, at least.
A little bit. These are not organized the way I'd like, but oh well. Clem Rogue. There's no timestamps for the games. That's neat. So anyway, while I scrub through this video, what do you want to talk about? This is gonna take a minute. Like,
Yeah. Well, I do think it's interesting too that for the longest time Zerg's unstoppable in late game, and then Terran finds a strategy that requires Zerg to do something different than they usually do in late game. At least from Rogue's perspective.
right.
I mean, I don't know if anybody else is doing this, but
Yeah,
if it works, then yeah, we'll see it in other TVZs.
I don't think anyone's going muted against Terran. Like, I think that's
It's
really weird.
yeah. I mean, again, it's not that he went mute. He did actually. One game he went mutas.
I'm
He
watching him
won,
do
he
it
went
versus
in-
Clem right now.
Yeah.
It's 8 minutes and he has 12 mutas in his base just flying around getting 19 SCVs. It's like,
Yeah. So Rogue is the one Zerg player that's like, yeah, I can make mutas work. I'm magic. He did it at SuperStarCraft Global against Beyond, I think, twice. The first time he won, and the second time he lost with it.
didn't he do it against Bunny as well yesterday?
I think he might have done a bunny one too, yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the one we were talking about, where it was super late game, he didn't open mutas, but he did make mutas in response to the amount of tanks that existed. Yeah.
I mean, I really don't like it. If they've got tanks instead of widow mines, mutas seem great. But tanks means they've got tech labs on factories and they just make Thors. You know? I feel like it shouldn't work, but it does, apparently.
Well, it's
If you're Rogue.
again, it's Rogue. I'm honest. I don't know the last time I saw Cyril open mutas or do anything with mutas and get stuff done with it. It's Rogue, man. Yeah. So what are you watching?
Do you want a link?
No, just tell me where you are. And...
They're on El Dorado, and
Okay.
it's Ling Muto at 15 minutes.
How long is the match?
I don't know.
Oh,
'Cause
it's like multiple matches in the same VOD?
Yeah, and they're not timestamped. So
Got it.
I'm just like scrubbing through trying to see, like, do all the mutas die? Hey, he makes Ultralisks as well. You should be happy.
Yeah, he did that against Beyond in that one game. He threw away like 68,000 resources, just crashing in over and over and over and over again. And won anyway because Rogue's insane.
Looks like he's winning this game. Yeah, he's taking base on the side. He's not doing a ton of overlords. So
Not
yeah,
doing the overseer thing.
Yeah, let's skip through to the next game. It's a roach attack. Okay.
Yeah.
Roach Ravager.
He'll open Roach for sure.
Well, okay, hold on. If I was looking at the Oli Moly bracket, I know he doesn't win any of these last two games because he loses 2-1 in his best of 3. So this game he does not win.
Okay. So if he does go for the mass overseer strategy here, it never works.
I don't think he does. It's just like Ravager, Ultra Viper, and Banelings.
Sure, Rogue. You can do what you want. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and then the game ends
Yeah.
in like 14 minutes.
Okay.
He did not do Mass Overlord or Overseer here.
Mass overseer. Okay. So yeah, I don't know what Laughing was talking about then, I guess.
I mean, it could be a game not on his results tab because it usually tries to filter by like Premier tournaments first.
Right.
Could have been somewhere else.
Right. Anywho's. Okay. Well, good. Enough about that.
Yeah. Yep.
I do want to talk about just two quick things dealing with Invincible and Reacher.
Sure.
So, did I talk to you about this with Invincible, the episode where he gets, like, grabbed by these people from the future and be like, "We need your help. Come to the far, far, far thousands of years in the future with us. We need your help."
No.
Invincible. Okay, so these guys do that, and he's like, "All right, what? Like, well, the world has been conquered by this super terrible overlord king, and he's oppressing us, and then there's a curfew, and he like has camps where he's murdering people and causing all untold suffering. You can stop him because we've
Okay.
heard about you in the past. You're this hero."
Sure.
So he shows up, and it's am I spacing his name? It's a guy from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
It's the immortal guy.
The Immortal, thank you. Golly, I kept wanting to call the Eternal. I'm like, that's not his name. And it's the Immortal.
Yeah.
And he's like, and first of all, Invincible's like, what the hell? And Immortal's like, you finally came. I've been trying to get you to come forever. And he's like, what is going on?
Interesting. Okay.
Right? And so the Immortal's basically like, I've been along too long. Everyone I've ever known has died. I'm going insane. I'm losing my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I need to die. But you fucked off with your family thousands of years ago and left me in charge of Earth. And I was not the right person to pick. I can't do this. I'm not like you. You need to kill me. And I have been I'm subjecting the people of Earth so that you would hear about it and come back. And kill me. And I was like, holy crap, this is kind of interesting.
But it's thousands of years in the future, so you did a fine job for thousands of years.
Well, I don't know. I don't know when things went bad. Sure, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He just reaches the point where he's going nuts, and he knows that he is.
Can't he fly? Just fly into the sun or into space. Like, surely the guy's got options.
Yeah, right? And that's what I was wondering. I don't know. I don't know if he physically could. It doesn't matter. He couldn't do it. He needed Invincible to do it.
Mm.
So yeah. So Invincible's like, no. And the Immortal's like, all right, I'm gonna start killing people until you do. And he's like, God, son of a.
Hold on, this is his own future, right? It's not like
Yes.
a parallel world or whatever.
No, this is as far as he knows, I don't know, man.
So
yeah.
is the Immortal trying to convince him to go back in time and kill him then?
Nope. Kill me now, he says. Let's do this.
Boy, does that seem redundant.
What do you mean?
It's just like Mark isn't going to want to hang out in the future for all time.
No. So he's basically like, if you kill me, I've got it set up to where, like, everything I've set up, all these robots that I use to oppress the people, they just, like, deactivate. And people can make their own lives now. I'm only doing this to get you to come back to Earth and kill me.
Does he know it's Mark from the past? It's not like
he's-
Mark who fucked off in his timeline with his family?
Yeah, he's fuzzy about it, man. He's like, you came back, and part of him's like, wait, you don't. But he's like, no, you're back. Like, he's really struggling mentally, you know?
Okay.
So I think part of him's wondering, like, this, I don't think this is my mark, but it's a mark. It'll work.
Right. Aren't there like 12 other Viltrumites he could have gone and found? Like, isn't him, like, oppressing Earth? Isn't, like, there's a very poignant line in the first season, which is, Earth isn't yours to conquer. Why is it suddenly this guy's? Where are the Viltrumites being like, no, that's our planet? Bad.
Right. I think. Yeah, I don't know. Because we talked about this before, where it's like most other multiverses, Mark joins his dad and conquers Earth for the Viltrumites. So I'm wondering, maybe it is an alternate universe. Maybe it's one where Mark and his dad conquer the Earth, and it's cool for a while, and then they're like, "Wait, go conquer other planets. Immortal, you're in charge." And he's like, "Okay," and they're like, "This sucks. Like, I don't want to do this anymore." Yeah. Maybe that happened. I don't know. Anyway, so then Mark kills him.
Okay.
He tears his head right off. And then, true to Immortal's word, all of the robots like deactivate. And like, all right, like, humanity, do your own thing now. The oppression is over. Congratulations, you win. And then it's just like, all right, cool, thanks, the guys say. And they send Mark back to his time. And he's like, He's like PTSD because he killed the immortal. It's just, it's this. I don't know. I just really love the setup a lot. This show is not interested in being like, here's the good guy and here's the bad guy, and
I,
then they punch each other and somebody wins.
you know how you feel about time travel most of the time?
Yeah,
That's how I feel about
bad.
everything you've just said. Like I,
You feel bad about it?
yeah, I feel like that was so pointless as a story beat. Because it's like
Well,
he comes back in time and the immortal's still there. Like he doesn't die for another 1,000 years or whatever.
right, right, right. But I mean, I don't know.
If there was a scene after he gets back where he like wakes up and realizes it was all a dream, it would have the same effect on the rest of the story.
I guess.
Or like it turns out someone like spiked his drink, or he had a bad batch of LSD. It's you know, it needing to like go off and do a thing in the far future and then come back with no real change other than like you remember killing someone. I feel like it's very hard for that to work with any other character that wasn't present at the time. It's like Mark can go and talk to people about it, sure, but it's very abstract for everyone else.
It is. It totally is. But okay, it just builds into the larger question that Mark's asking himself right now in this season of I decided to not be like my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and the way I'm going to do that is not killing people.
Mm.
And so he's finding himself in these situations where he's killing people
Right.
for good reasons, he's pretty sure.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, am I just my dad? Does my dad think the same thing? When he
Right.
kills people, he's like, it's for the greater good. I'm doing this for the right reasons. You know? It's
Yeah.
just, it's tricky.
I like
That's all.
I get that, but the specific scenario where he goes into the future to kill a guy he left to like rule Earth or protect it thousands of years ago, if he goes crazy later, that's not his problem. And his
No.
dad, Omni Man, was specifically like on a murderous rampage. In season one, Mark is being pushed through a train by his dad and just killing everyone inside. There's a very different level of killing there, and it's like
Yep.
I'm not my dad because I'm not wantonly slaughtering innocents is very different to I'm putting down a dictator. You know?
Right. Right. And I think it's important to remember that Mark's like 18. Like, he
Sure.
is a kid.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, so maybe this is a journey from killing is bad to there are different types of killing. Wanton execution of innocence is a different thing than
No.
taking down a supervillain, right?
I just feel like I would be more interested if Mark came back from the future and then had to have the, like wrestle with the idea of killing Immortal again now, or if he was in the middle of fucking off with his family and being like, well, I know Immortal's going to turn evil in like 2,000 years. Do I need to set like a Google alert in a 500 years to come back and nip this in the bud? Right? I think.
Right.
I think
I mean, that might totally happen. It might get to that point in the story.
it might. It's just it's all set up, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like it's weirdly it's probably something I'd really enjoy in Warhammer. I just don't think. From when I was watching Invincible, all of the multiverse stuff was like the weakest thing because it's superheroes and it's multiverse, and I'm a little tight on that.
Right, right.
But I don't know.
That's fair.
You've not sold me to come back to the show.
Entirely reasonable.
Yeah.
And just as a quick aside, they do spend an entire episode going through an entire arc of how somebody becomes a supervillain.
Oh yeah.
And it takes one episode, and I think they do a really good job with it. It's kind of impressive. Anywho, so then Reacher,
Mhm.
just a quick thought on Reacher as well,
Mhm.
is it's interesting because most of the books in Reacher, he's alone. He wanders into a town alone. He's hanging out. A problem arises. He gets caught up in it because he's the protagonist. He solves the problem. He maybe makes a friend. Like maybe he makes a friend with someone, but then he fucks off and he goes to the next town and leaves them behind and never sees them again. Right?
Right.
So this one story they're doing for season 2 involves when Reacher was in the military, boss basically gave him the right to create a special team within the military to investigate crimes within the army or whatever and
Right.
figure out what's going on. It's a very small team of like 6 people.
Mm-hmm.
So he handpicks these people. He develops really strong relationships with them. He loves them all. They do a lot of great things. And then he leaves the military and never talks to them again because he's a hobo, right? He's
Right.
riding the rails from town to town.
Uh-huh.
So in this story, one of his people on the team finally manages to contact him. And he's like, hey, uh, 2 people from our team have been murdered? Do you want to look into that? He's like, yes. So he spends the story hanging out with people that he knows, that he has relationships and friendships with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this incredible change in tone in the books. It's like book 10
Right.
when they finally do this. So Reacher's been alone forever and ever and ever and ever. And then it's like, here's Reacher with friends. And you're like, what? This is weird.
Uh-huh.
But then they just do it in season 2 in the TV show because they're like, this loner thing is getting old. We can't just have him be a loner for the next 8 seasons. Let's give him some people to play off of. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the idea. And I think they're doing it okay. But I just feel like people who only watch the show don't understand how weird it is for Reacher to be hanging out with people that he has past relationships with. That's
Right.
all.
So, one of the podcasts that I listened to, they briefly mentioned it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Reacher, and that's the thing that stuck out to them. That season 2 was a bit weird because Reacher had a team, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, these are people who've only watched the show. Or do they have the book background as well?
No, just the show, I think.
Just
right?
the show. Oh, okay. So even for just a show watcher, they're like, "What is this?"
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, well, good. Maybe it is a kind of a lane change as it is for me as for
readers.
everybody else.
How many
Yeah.
books have you read?
Like all of them.
Oh, okay.
There
Okay.
are 29 books in the Jack Reacher series.
And you've read all of them? That's
I
impressive.
think so. Yep.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not very long. They're always the same thing. Reacher shows up in a town. Oh no, there's trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta save it. It's very much the spiritual successor of the Western, of the cowboy rides into town on a horse with no name and nobody knows who he is. And oh no, the sheriff's corrupt and who's going to take him? Oh, the stranger will do it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's very much that. Very serialized in that way. But then every once in a while they do something like this. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
anyway, it's good.
Yep.
All right, Warhammer.
Sure. You just reminded me of something, and it's popped into my head, so I'm just going to tell you, which is
Okay.
I was listening to a very, very old podcast about Medal of Honor. Well, it's about video games, but they're talking about Medal of Honor, a game that came out in like 2009. So this is an old podcast.
Yeah.
And EA had a statement where they had to change in the multiplayer. It was like U.S. Marines versus the Taliban, and the U.S. military said we're not going to stock this game on the private public exchange or whatever, basically the mall for soldiers, because you're like they have Taliban in them, and these people are fighting the Taliban.
Okay.
And so EA was like, okay, great, we'll change it. And they're like, good, thanks for that. We're still not stocking it. And so EA had a statement where it's like, look, in defense of a decision to call it the Taliban, some people had to, when kids played Cowboys and Indians, someone had to be the Indians. When we play World War II shooters, someone has to be the Nazis. And I'm just like, this is like a quote waiting to be dredged up. EA comparing Indians to Nazis and the Taliban, right?
Right.
And
right.
so when you said that like Reacher's like old school cowboys wandering into town, that's what clicked with me. So yeah, that's the thought I had, but it's ethereal, and we can move on to Warhammer.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. 2009 was a different time, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Warhammer, what did we read, Falcon?
We read a book. I never remember the titles of these books, but it sure is a great title. I'm sure it's something like Space Marine.
It's called The Emperor's Gift.
All right, fine. That's better. I'll
It is
allow it.
significantly better.
The Emperor's Gift. Yeah. So
Right.
for my perspective,
Uh-huh.
this is a payoff of a seed from the Horus Heresy where Titan's doing stuff.
Uh-huh. So,
And yeah.
I read this book right after I think taken a break from the Horus Heresy. I just finished reading like the Thousand Suns books and the Emperor's and the Space Wolves books in the Horus Heresy, like by Dan Abnett and Gray McNeil.
Yeah.
So I took a break from that and I read the Inquisitor series, which we did, and then I read this, and I had my mind blown because I was not aware of the connections to those, right?
Yeah.
Even outside
Yes.
of like what the Malkador was doing at like the end of the Heresy and like siphoning
Yeah.
off supplies to Titan and disappearing it into the warp for 1,000 years or whatever. We get two connections to other books just from like out of nowhere, kind of, right? It's like, okay, one, this guy's Zale, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
two, there's Bear. You know, there's
Yes.
Bjorn the Fellhand, and I'm just like, holy shit, I know that guy.
I know. This book, it starts off being like, these Grey Knights, they're kind of boring a little bit in some ways. And then it's like, here are major connections back to previous things we've done. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun just to be like, I understand that reference, you know?
Yeah, totally. It was kind of nice to be like, I've read enough in the Warhammer universe to like know who these people are. That's nice.
Right. Especially when,
Right.
like, Bjorn in this book is treated very reverently because he was there, he walked beside the Emperor, and these are people who now worship him as, like, a god. And so
Yeah.
he's constantly telling people, oh god, enough with the kneeling, stand up. You know, it's like, you walked by the Emperor's side. Yes, I walked, I talked, I laughed, he even pissed, and I think he liked me, you know?
Yeah. He's like, dude, where I'm from, everybody did. We all fought with the Emperor at some point. Like, that was the norm. Then the heresy happened and everything got shit canned, but yeah, it was fine for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good old Bjorn. That was great.
Uh,
So I do have a couple of questions here.
Sure, yeah.
So I was kind of under the impression with 40K that the only dudes left are the Ultramarines.
No.
Yeah.
They're all there, but most of them are like the Ultramarines, because the Ultramarines come out on top,
Right.
and then second founding, and they start splitting off the legions into chapters. The
Yes.
Space Wolves kind of refused that idea.
Sounds like Space Wolves. Yeah.
And it turns out Space Wolf gene seed is really kind of only compatible with Fenrisians. Like, they have a hard time recruiting from other planets. So
Right.
having multiple Space Wolves chapters is very difficult. Like, they had one in the, like, established lore.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
they all got killed.
Oh,
So the Space
that
Wolves,
sucks.
like, to like, I don't know, balance it, Space Wolves don't really give a shit about the whole you can only have 1,000 Marines thing. They kind of still have
Right.
the 13 great companies. Who knows how many actual Space Wolves there are. They're not outright flaunting this rule. They just kind of don't give a shit. The Black Templars, who I think you've heard of, they very much flaunt that they don't give a shit about what Spacebook says. Like, Spacebook says, if you go on a crusade, you can have more than 1,000 Marines. So, like, great, we're going to be on crusade permanently, you know?
Ah.
And they're fleet-based, so they're just like,
Loopholes.
we just have giant fleets everywhere. It's great.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, no. All the other chapters are legions from the Loyalists are still around doing stuff. There's a chapter called the Iron Hands and the Salamanders, and they have successor chapters as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point in the story, are any of the Primarchs around?
Nope.
None.
This is
So Gilliman's not back.
This is okay. So we actually get a date. This is set in 404 M41, right? 404
Okay.
is the year. M41 is the millennium, which works like our centuries. So, it's about 600 years before the return of Gilliman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Lehman Russ is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows where he is.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's gone. Lionel's gone.
Yep.
Okay, so then another question I have. Thanks for answering that one.
Go for it. Yeah.
They're like, we can't let anybody know that the Primarchs, the Emperor's sons, fell to heresy. We can't let them know that Angron exists.
Uh huh.
So we're gonna murder everybody who knows that Hangron exists.
Kind of.
So
Yeah.
what's the story?
What do you?
Angron, same thing as Lehman Russ. Is it like Angron went off and we don't know
No.
where he is? He's out
So-
there somewhere.
One of the many.
Every Primarch is off on some weird, mysterious mission. We don't know what happened to him.
One of the many lies that the church approves of is that the Emperor created 9 angels to fight 9 devils of the warp. The Angron is not a son of the Emperor. That's the part of the truth that they need to keep covered up. Is that not that he had sons that fell? It's that was a son. And
How do they know? How would some Imperial Guardsman on Apocalypse fighting Angron be like, oh, this is the Emperor's son? They'd be like, no, it's one of the major demons, obviously.
They're not trying.
How is this a problem?
They're not trying to specifically keep it from the Guardsmen. They're just killing the Guardsmen so the Guardsmen don't spread it, right? It's all of the
Spread what?
the knowledge of the truth, like
What truth?
that the Emperor's sons fell.
How would fighting Angron do that?
No,
They're like, this guy is obviously a demon from the warp. There's at no point are you fighting Angron and going like,
look, if
this seems like one of the Emperor's holy angel sons, right?
look, they're also killing people to keep the existence of the Grey Knights a secret.
Yes. No, I get that. And the existence of the warp and demons as a whole a secret. I understand that. But there's a very specific part in there where it's like, we can't let people know that the Primarchs fell. That would be really bad. But that no part in this event did anyone ever have the idea that the Primarchs fell.
Well, okay, so in theory, like, let's just like have a guess at it. They recognize that that's Angron, right? Just from when they're like warp scrying it from Titan. They're like, oh
Sure.
shit, that's one of the major Diabolists from the old sect. I'm like, there's less than 10 of them. It can't be
Grey
them.
Knights and Inquisitorian people do. Yes.
They know that, and so
And people who know about demons and know about the Primarchs that fell.
and so
'Kay.
they get there and like. The Space Wolves know. They recognize. They go, "Oh shit, that's a Primarch. That's a demon Primarch." Like they get that.
Do they? Did
Yeah.
they have a moment?
They have a moment where they're talking and they're like, "You know what it is that we're fighting, right?" They get
Okay.
that, and they're
the Space
working
Wolves
with the
know.
humans. They're working with the people, and they go, maybe they talk. Maybe they let the generals in on mission briefings. You know.
Okay, so if that's it, if you're just worried about the Space Wolves telling the story of Angron's fall,
That might be it. And so you can't then just let the guard know and the guard tell their bosses and then it spreads and suddenly you have entire planets being like, but that's an Emperor's son? That doesn't match the history that I know. And suddenly you've got 3 thinkers and that's a problem for the Imperium. Again, if it doesn't make sense that you're trying to keep this information. Much of this book is about how the Inquisition is short-sighted, right, and kind of
totally
stupid, and that's just another thing to like lump in there. It doesn't make sense because it kind of doesn't work. Some books are like, the Imperium's keeping the Grey Knights a secret so that the demons don't know that they've got this super secret weapon to fight demons, and it's like, okay, so the Grey Knights kill a demon, it goes back into the warp where it knows Grey Knights exist.
Yeah.
and, it doesn't make sense. It's very stupid.
No, it doesn't. All right. Fair enough. So, they didn't kill Angron.
No, they banished him for a while. Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Got
did
it.
break his blade, though, and I think that stays broken canonically. Like, he has to go and get a new sword.
Yeah.
Yep. With his new model, because I think this was probably written, like, I don't know, 6 years before he got his new model. His new model came with some new lore, because he has new weapons. He took a Slaneshi demon and beat it with an iron bar until it, like, became a demon sword. Like, he just...
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like Angron. Yeah.
Very fun. But, like, hey, we've got a reason for that happening. Hyperion broke his sword. Yeah.
Sure. But here's my other question. Friggin' Sanguinius couldn't take down Angron. Couldn't take down Demon Prince Angron.
He did. He killed him.
Did he banish him to the warp?
At the Siege of Terra, when he like rips out his skull
Yeah.
cables, yeah, that banishes him to
That
the
banished
wall.
him?
Yeah.
Okay. So Sanguinius pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
And also
Uh-huh.
these Grey Knights
Uh-huh.
who are Astartes. Yeah.
A hundred of them with the Emperor's gift. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
Okay.
you picked up on it, but they do like make this is much of it's written from Hyperion's perspective, and he has a line in it that's like, it's not hyperbole when we say we have the Emperor's gift, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who's their Primarch?
Yeah. It's the Emperor's gene seed.
It's
Right.
the Emperor's gene seed.
Yeah, I get that.
Maybe a step up from regular Astartes is the idea.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like they did lose 97 of them or something fighting this thing.
Right. But it's just like Zale breaks the blade and gets knocked out, and then it's like
he dies off
this.
screen. Yeah.
What? Yeah, 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 yeah.
Dies off screen. Yeah.
Right, but the story is that this one guy, this one captain, this captain of the Grey Knights, he stood against him one-on-one and defeated him. And I'm like, I would really like to know exactly how you did this. Seems like a big friggin' deal.
Yeah, I kind of. It kind of is, right?
Yeah.
Like it sounds like the kind of thing that would be a big freaking deal. Except Warhammer, by sheer virtue of having like hundreds of books, it's kind of ordinary. You don't really need to know that. Like, Angron and other demon Primarchs show up in other stories and get banished in other stories, you know?
Okay.
Um,
So you don't need a Primarch to take down a demon Primarch.
it
friends.
certainly helps, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, you don't need it. You just need 100 Space Marines, all with the Anathema's gene seed, who are massively powerful psychers, who can break his weapon, probably destabilize the the warp's ability to power up Angron because they're all Anathema sons or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know, a orbital macro cannon shot probably wouldn't hurt as well, you know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Always good. Yeah. Okay. I did like the parts where it's like demons, literally, the smaller ones literally die in our present. Like, we've got this going on for us, which that is not a normal Space Marine thing. They don't generally have that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like a lot of this book when Hyperion's with his brothers. They have this like empathic bond with each other where they can like sense each other and feel their emotions and stuff. I thought it was a very unique way to be like, so Space Marines are big dumb brutes that don't really feel, but these ones do. Here's how, you know?
Yeah.
Just to give them some like character and personality, you know?
Uh-huh. I mean, they still can't recognize human emotion very well.
No,
and
not very. But...
can't tell if a human's attractive or not. But by golly, they have a good relationship with their brothers.
I think all of the... there's like a line where Hyperion's like, I don't have any real feeling for this woman, but I recognize that she's physically attractive. I'm like, is that a lingering after effect of Winston Frauke reading him a bunch of porno slates in his sleep? Yeah.
Right? Right?
Right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a neat touch.
I don't know. I also thought it was interesting, too, that the report on Zale's, like, he can absorb the powers of psychers that are nearby him and use...
So, like, every
And
time
it's
he
like,
was
did
next
we
to...
see him do that?
Yeah, every time he was, like, next to Patient's Kiss, he could suddenly mind
Telekinesis.
speak.
Oh.
Which is something she could do. And, like, well, okay, whenever he was around someone who was, like, mind-speaking, Ravana was mind-speaking to, he also picked that up then.
I do remember that. Yeah. But if he's, like, alone somewhere, he can't do any of that.
Probably not. Certainly not untrained. He can now, because they, like, fixed him of that somehow, you know?
Yeah. That was another thing. It's like, here is his power. We changed it to be entirely different. And it's like,
Not
okay.
entirely different. Like, he does still worry that he's still doing that. Like, he notes that his powers are much more easy to use when he's around other psychers.
Right. When he was with his brothers, yeah.
Right. They just taught him how to tap into his own power supply.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'd still love somebody to recognize that he reversed a null, which, again... I don't know if anyone's ever done that before,
No.
and it kind of freaks me out to this day.
I do wonder if part of that was him hanging around Slight, and he's like, I'm passively reflecting Slight's powers, and like, that's a huge amount of warp power. If that's what's driving through, you push that through a null, and it can
Through a
break
null,
them. Yeah.
gets rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So
I just would like somebody to write a story where either it happens again or they acknowledge this was a crazy thing.
crazy things happen all the time. Did you hear about this one time 100 Space Marines killed Angron?
Yeah, but like you said, you kill Demon Prince Primarchs all the time. That's
Wow.
not weird.
Maybe not all the time, but
Well, more than once.
right.
If this was a one-time thing, I'd be like, okay, yeah, good comparison. Not what it is, though. This is a one-time deal. Freaking Zale. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them being like, we have to purge you of your entire history and personality.
Yeah.
You do not get to know who you were before you were a Space Marine. And it's like, other Space Marines got to know who they were before they were Space Marines.
A lot other Space Marines do. The Grey Knights is specifically fighting Chaos Demons, and Chaos, like, when it gets into your brain, it'll use your past and history and stuff against you. And so, like, a part of their incorruptibility is having no past for them to, like, be played with.
Fair enough. If you're just trying to make a pure weapon to fight the warp, then sure, good idea. Yeah. Is that an initial idea for the Grey Knights, or did they add that later?
I don't know, like, chronologically how their lore changed. I know a couple things that got, like, no, maybe don't look at that book anymore. One of the ones that they think they did was, like, Grey Knights bathe in Battle Sister blood to, like, anoint themselves with holy virtue, and it's like, that sounds like a chaos ritual.
Sure does.
And it's like, why were they doing that? Well, they needed extra protection from Khorne for their next mission, and it's like, so they bathed in blood?
That's his whole thing.
Yeah, so a lot
He
of people
loves the blood.
A lot of people go, don't look at it, don't think about that. It's not real.
Fair enough.
It can't hurt you.
Yeah. So are Battle Sisters just under the Inquisition?
Sort of. So there's a thing called the Age of Apostasy, or like Van Dyne's Reign of Blood. I think it got mentioned in the last Ravenel book, right? Like this thing that happened years ago. Basically, Master of the Ecclesiarchy managed to also take over the High Lord seat of the Administratum, so he held the two most powerful spots, right? Mm-hmm. And became a total dictator of the entire Imperium, right? Like, he was just killing people and sending planets to exterminatus for, like, no reason. He went insane, basically. But one of the things he did was he found this, like, little cult called the Brides of the Emperor, and tricked them into thinking he had divine protection, right? Like, they from a little backwards agri world. And so he's like, look, shoot me. The Emperor will protect me. I have faith. And they shoot him, and he has, like, a refractor field that, like, blinds them with light when he gets shot. And he's like, see, the Emperor intervened. And they're like, oh my god, you're so holy. And they become the Brides of the Emperor, right? And they're, like, his personal bodyguards.
Okay.
When he eventually gets killed,
Who takes them down?
They do, sort of. Them and the custodians.
Oh.
Like, the brides. It's a big deal.
Okay.
And Sebastian Thor, so if you've heard of the Thoresians in the Inquisition, it's like one of their factions, they believe in the teachings very closely of Sebastian Thor. He's like the preacher that rises up from within the Ecclesiarchy to take down Doge Vendile.
Okay.
Basically, the church gets the decree passive, where they're not allowed to have men under arms. Like, they cannot have an army anymore because you might try to seize control of the Imperium again. And Classic. They go, great, we'll sign on that. No men under arms. And so they keep the Sisters of Battle, right?
Okay.
And so the Sisters of Battle set up, like, their own conclaves. They're basically, like, chapters of Space Marines is kind of how they work. But they're all women. At least the Battle Sisters are. There's, like, when we start talking about representation in 40k, people go, if you want to play female Space Marines, play the Sisters of Battle. And it's like, okay, if I go to Games Workshop, Space Marines have 700 items you can choose from to buy and paint and play. Some of them are characters, so they don't really count. Sisters of Battle have, like, 40. You know, it's not quite the same on the tabletop, so, you know, there was a point for that. Anyway, they're kind of like they're kind of like chapters. There's Space Marines. They have bolters. They have flamers, but everything's religiously flavored.
I've
And
played Argenta. I know who they
Yep.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm explaining for anyone who's listening or might listen. Who
Oh,
don't
okay.
know.
Sorry. Go ahead. Yes,
And
here are the Sisters of Battle. Got it.
and at the same time, the orders of the Inquisition adopted a third major Order Majoris, the Order Hereticus. That was the third one to come along. And the Sisters of Battle also get to exist because they're the armed militant of the orders or whatever. It's like when the Order Hereticus Inquisitors need a private military force, that's who they call. Where the Grey
Yeah.
Knights are for the Orders Malleus, and the Death Watch are for the Order of Xenos. So, to answer your initial question, do the Battle Sisters exist at the beck and call of the Inquisition? Yes, some of them.
Okay. Got it. How come their hair's always white?
Because one of their leaders' hair is white, or sometimes like this, the Emperor pours a bunch of power through like a saint, and it turns their hair white, so they all dye it in recognition.
Wow.
I think that's literally it. It's aesthetics. They like it.
So every couple days, Argenta's in the bathroom just like pulling
Dyeing
out the white hair dye. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's not as cool as I thought it was gonna be. All right.
Her hair might just be white. Like they might
Sure.
have gene therapies to just have it turn. They might not be like out there with the hydrogen peroxide every 2 days. You know? Like, oh no, you can see my roots.
Right? How embarrassing. That would be interesting, though. Like, you're with a battle sister, you get captured by somebody, and it's after a couple weeks, you're like, wait a second.
It's not a
I
battle
see
sister.
your roots. Yeah.
She's not got white hair. She's blonde. It's a lie.
All right. Anywho, let's see. Oh, yeah. And then the Bjorn reveal. I'll tell you, my first thought, they're like, and then this dreadnought shows up, and I'm like, they put Lehman Russ in a dreadnought? Holy shit.
That would be
And
cool.
then they're like, no. And it's like, oh, okay, good. I feel better about this. Because the way that What's-Her-Face Fenrisian reacted, I was like,
he's real. And she like starts kneeling and crying. And it's like, oh my god, it's Lehman Russ. It's not
it's
just a...
Lehman Russ. Yeah.
I can see that,
They
yeah.
put him in a dreadnought. I was like, what a terrible thing to do to a Primarch.
I mean, if only Ferrus Mattis hadn't lost his head, they could maybe have done that with him.
Right. That could have made sense.
I'm
guess.
looking for like the Primarch that makes sense to put into a dreadnought, like the tech one. Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. The one.
Yeah.
Anyway. And then it's Bear. And I was like, this guy's great.
He's like, oh, little man Inquisitor, you remind me of a remembrancer I once knew. And it's like,
He's like, I hate Remembrancers. They suck. And I'm like, I can understand why.
it's like, I remember this. I know that reference as well.
Freaking Hauser. Yeah. There's a ton of stuff with him and Hauser and the and Prospero, and man, he's got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so
That was great.
Bear is, I think, a character from 40k that just got written into 30k, like the Horus Heresy.
Okay.
Like he existed already. A lot of his stuff is like he was the first Jarl and the first High King or Great Wolf after Lehman Russ leaves.
Yeah.
And he was also the only member of Lehman Russ's personal like bodyguards that he left behind when he fucked off, right?
Yes.
So Bear's
Yep.
kind of still upset about it, you know?
Totally. Yep. Should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Lehman Russ is like, yes, I know you all want to come with me on this great crusade, but like, I need to leave somebody in charge that I trust. Sorry, man. Yeah.
When he goes and looks for the Tree of Life.
Or some people say he's looking for Lionel Johnson.
At
At least according to a wiki page that I read earlier.
I don't think I've read that, and it's weird because like we know where Lion is now.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And also, they didn't get along very well. Like,
Yeah.
so why would he go be looking for him?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe somebody wrote some of their own fan fiction on that Wikipedia page.
Maybe. So yeah, I mean, really good book. I like the Inquisitors. I like Anika Jarl's Dottir, which just means like Lord's daughter. You know.
Right.
She's
she's great because she's a tiny little space wolf.
Yeah,
Like
she
she
totally
totally
thinks
thinks
she.
she is. She's like, I am a space wolf.
That
I am
that
awesome.
that's all the
Yeah.
Fenrisians. They're all like that. It's great. She carries a
Yeah.
full size Astartes bolter and just has like
Yeah.
these gravity reducers on it.
Yeah.
But it's just this
So that she
massive
can use
cannon.
it. And there's this like little baby trigger for her to pull to fire it.
It's really good.
It's really good.
I like her
Oh.
entourage as well. I feel like as an Inquisitor's entourage, it's very easy to just like make them kind of boringly grimdark. Like there's a scene in I think it's the first Eisenhorn book where it's like, and this other Inquisitor's entourage was a bunch of death cultists in more straps of leather than actual clothes. And it's like, okay, I get it. They're grimdark, Dan.
Yeah.
But this is like, okay, she has like this priest child. It's like this girl with like a little flamer tank who just has faith in the Emperor, but also thinks this is the end times. You know? And her
Which,
pet heretic
I
as
mean,
well. Well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she says that, and I'm like, not too wrong, kid.
Might not be wrong. Yeah. Especially when she like comments on the fact that like all the books are set in this 1,000-year period, the M41. It's like we're only halfway through this millennium and we've already suffered like more horrific colossal events than the rest of the like history of the Imperium. Is like, ah yes, because all the books are set here. You know?
Right. A little meta commentary there.
A
Yeah.
little bit.
And then the heretic who's been redeemed.
Mm-hmm. Another interesting concept: can heretics be redeemed?
I don't know. Zale doesn't think so.
This Inquisitor seems to think so.
Yeah. She's Fenrisian. Like, she does her own thing, man.
True, true.
Fenrisians are their own flavor.
She also gives a great explanation of like why you can't trust anything you read in the lore. Like Inquisitors have no real formal structure. Some of us believe this thing, some of us believe that thing. And you know, sometimes we get together and have like Inquisitor lords make decisions and stuff, but sometimes we can just kind of do whatever we want. And it's like, yes, okay, I get it. I get what you mean when you say this.
100%.
Yeah. Who else?
Yeah.
She also has a like an ex-guard guy, like an ex-Astra Militarum dude who's just like
Yeah.
very proper about his uniform. Also, I feel like the ship's captain was on her payroll as well because he's like got this ridiculously ornate tricorn hat for like
Yeah.
piloting the ship. I'm like, it's fun, fanciful. There's like lots of little details. Oh, the ferryman when they're on Titan and they're like, we're here to bury Sothis, and he's a null space marine.
He's a Null Gray Space Marine.
Yeah, so
Extra weird. Like, yes, Null Space Marine, weird. Null Gray Space Marine.
did did they burn him out? Like, did they? Is that Wystan Frauker in another life?
I don't know. I just like that Zale couldn't let it go. He's like, I don't trust this guy. He's a null. He's freaking me out. We gave our buddy's body to him, but I don't know about this. And his commander had to keep being like, dude, let it go. We're leaving.
Right.
He's doing his job, and he's like, yeah, but I don't know. It's a null. Freaks me out. Poor Hyperion. He has a tough time of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like, too, in the early parts of the story where it's like, we're fighting as a team, and then Hyperion would be like, I'm going to do this thing. And
Or like no.
right. But the way it's a lot of the time written in stories like this, it's like, oh, the protagonist knows better. Like, he's obviously going to do the thing that his commander doesn't want him to do, and it's going to work out awesome, and nothing bad will happen. And this book is like, actually, it's a really big problem when a Grey Knight kind of acts on his own and tries to go out and be a lone wolf. And yeah, he gets one of his brothers killed, and like totally gets censored about it, and there's actual consequences for him deciding to do that. And like, you really got to try to be a part of the team, man. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and like people, the rest of the team like gives him a bit of grief over like Sothis' death, and it's like, okay, but they kind of at the same time they're angry with him, and Malkadil definitely more so because he was literally his brother as well. Like,
Right.
like, God, the dichotomy of like these Space Marines don't know anything about their lives before they were Space Marines, but also this guy has his literal brother with him. Great, sure, why not?
Sure.
It
Yeah,
works.
I guess.
It sounds like it should
do-
work, but it does.
Totally. Yep.
Strength of Aaron's writing, I guess.
Uh-huh. I liked that, and I liked that the Space Marine Inquisitorium conflict,
Mm-hmm.
like, it made sense. I could see both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, you're meant to be like the Inquisitorians being totally asshats about this.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you were saying, like, I get it. I get the perspective. I get them
Mm-hmm.
being like, yeah, the Space Wolves claim they have all these people that don't know anything about what's happening, and
Mm-hmm.
leave them alone. But it's like, really? Can you guarantee that? Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole concept of, okay, so either we murder these people here, or
We burn
they go out
planets
into
later.
the wide Imperium and we track them down and kill them then, and more people are gonna die.
Right.
It's this really pragmatic way to look at it that they're trying to make the Space Wolves understand, but they're like, nope.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of feels like the Space Wolves have been just pushed too far. They've seen this happen too many times, and this time they're like, we're taking a stand.
They are honorable to a fault in this book,
Yeah.
which is a nice change from like. Sometimes they're like depicted as very much comedy drunken Vikings, right? And
Sometimes,
so,
yeah.
having them just be honorable to a fault, to be like, look, we didn't shed our blood, for infrastructure. We did it for the Imperium's people. We're going to save the people.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of, unfortunately, don't have a way to be like, oh no, all the people in Armageddon, we're going to protect them. They kind of get like, they get mass sterilized and put into labor camps, which is, they're going to just blow up the guardsmen in their ships as they're trying to leave. It's like, great, we got them all together. We'll just sacrifice these ancient vessels, that hold tens of thousands of people. Which I feel like the Imperium needs ships. You're never not going to need a ship. So, like...
I had that thought. I was like, really? We're just blowing up all these ships?
Sure, apparently. But, like,
Yep.
the Space Wolves don't really have any means to, like, stop the Inquisition from sterilizing the entire planet. Which, I guess they just do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But additionally, like, okay, I get you're sterilizing them, but you're not letting them leave?
No, they're just
Like,
staying there.
nobody ever gets off planet ever?
Nope.
For the rest of their lives?
Nope.
Are you sure? You can set that
Well,
up? Really?
Here's the thing. All the people that were alive, all the, like, civilians, were all in their cities and didn't see any of the fighting.
Right.
It's like they were just on the planet.
Yeah.
So they don't have anything to tell,
Then why are we sterilizing all of them?
just in case.
Right. Because you can't guarantee they don't know anything.
No, it's
That's
not
my point.
It's not about not knowing anything. It's about being tainted in that case.
Or that.
Right? Because
Yeah.
obviously if they were alive, they could tell people, right? But they don't know anything to tell. It's just whether or not they have a taint or not that they're going to pass on and maybe have kids and tell them. I don't know. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. The
It is weird.
Inquisition's kind of blair, but it's like, I guess the difference is like hundreds of thousands of Imperial Guard or billions potentially of people as a labor force. When you have billions, it makes more sense to sterilize and then put in a mine.
I know. I still would be worried every day that someone gets off world and they're infected and bam.
Yeah, I don't know.
You right? I don't know. Yeah, they're just so hardcore about it, and sometimes, and other times, they're less stringent.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do not know. The Inquisition does not make sense a lot of times.
No.
But
And I like at the end when the Inquisition shows up at Fenris and everyone's going to murder each other.
you
then-
kind of feel bad for the Inquisitor because he's like, everything is very sincere that he's like, okay, yes, I listened to the wrong people here.
Yeah.
That they said like, oh, these are animals. I need to like show dominance like you would to like a black bear or something. Instead of laying down, you try to make yourself look as big as possible. And it's like,
And
no, that's not going to work here. And so you've put a fleet between the Great Wolf and the Fang, and now you were like this close to working out a peace deal with
With
Bear, and then
Yeah.
suddenly everyone else showed up, and the optics just look bad. And it's like because he could like a lot of it was like he's accusing the Space Marines of being like, no, you don't have the pride to like back down and just let the Inquisition do its job. Like you did a thing, and you're first found space marines, like a first found. But it's him. He doesn't have the pride to like. Well, he's not humble. He has too much pride to just step away and say, "Yes, I was wrong."
Mm-hmm.
And like. He won't accept like the slight on the Inquisition that the Space Wolves won't take a penitent crusade to redeem them of their sins, and
Right.
So you almost start to feel bad, but then he like I don't know. He gets his head chopped off and it's fine. Like he just like sweet.
Everything works out in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just like at the end where it's all out battle. Everyone's murdering everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the half-hand shows up and he's like, all right, look.
Knock it off.
Knock it off, guy who's the Supreme Commander and the Jarl right now. Like, I outrank you. Knock it the hell off. And the guy's like, I don't want to, but you are in charge, so okay.
I do like that they set up a couple times in the book that the Space Wolves do not like to teleport, and so when they start teleporting, you're like, oh shit, it's a big deal. Like, shit's going down.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when Bjorn teleports, he's like, now I know why everyone hates it. This sucks. Yeah. Yeah, then they just put him back in stasis until they need him again. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you guys always need me. And they're like, we know.
That's what they do. They just put him in stasis until they need him again. Because, like, dreadnoughts will go crazy if you just leave them awake.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
We've been in the heads of a few of these guys. I know how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most of them hate it, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just feel like it'd be nice if every chapter maybe had a 10,000-year-old guy who'd been there for the heresy to be like, can we get some perspective on this? You know? I guess that's what Gilliman is. You don't have to put him in a box.
Right, but the problem is Gilliman's up and around walking and talking, and people are like, he's having to correct people on things he did and didn't say, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how it was, and they're like, but I like it better this way, and he's like, fine.
So you're saying maybe if they dreadnoughted him, they'd listen to him?
I don't know.
Like, I don't know that Bjorn's trying to, like, change a little bit.
A little bit.
Bit of changing misconceptions about the God Emperor side of things.
Right.
But everything else, he's just there to, like, give counsel on should we go to war or what should we do here in this situation, right?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he is also still a dreadnought, so he still fights.
Yeah. Well, because Zale's like, I have a million questions to ask this guy. He's been around forever. Also specifically about all the cool spaceships they had back in the Heresy.
Right.
And then he never does because he doesn't have time to sit around and be like, let me tell you about we had in the Heresy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of the stories where, like, Gilliman comes back and he is worshipped, basically. People, like, fall to their knees and like, oh my god, it's the son of the God Emperor. And, you know, before that, this guy might have been the closest that they had, because only the first found chapters, so there's 9 of them, right, of the Loyalists, have any claim to be there when the Emperor was there. All of the second founding chapters, by definition, have to be after the Emperor was enthroned.
Right.
So none of them have well, some of them were founded by, like, other people who were, but, like, usually the founding member of a chapter, like the Black Templars, Sigismund, isn't around anymore. Like, he's dead, you know?
Okay.
So they don't have those people anymore. And a lot of chapters were made 4,000 or 5,000 years later, so they just don't have anyone like that they can call on for that history.
Right.
And part of me thinks it's also very just Fenrisian that Jarl's Dot here knows about this guy. It's like Fenris, everything's word of mouth, so it's a very oral tradition. They don't have a lot of writing going on. If you remember from Caspar Hauser, they like take his pens away and be like, if you want to record things, we gave you a mechanical eye, so take pictures. So I feel like
right. So for them to have this type of let's
person.
Look back at the history makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, for them to have this legend. Yeah. And then for other people to also recognize it, I feel like kind of makes sense. I don't know.
Recognize it?
To recognize him as, like, this person.
Yeah.
Because if you hadn't read any of the Space Wolves books where Bjorn shows up, you would just be like, who's this guy? Why are they all treating him with such reverence? But these people will show up at the same time as you in the story, and they know. So like word of this guy is getting around somehow. He's in records elsewhere, but other people know.
Yeah. Well, because they pull him out of stasis every time they need his help. It's
We
not like
don't
he's been in stasis since the heresy.
we don't know that.
Yeah. He wouldn't say that on the way out. He wouldn't be like, "You always need my help." If it had been since
Well,
the
we
heresy,
don't
since they
know.
needed him.
Okay, look, we don't know how often they're pulling him out. Like, is it once every
No.
couple hundred years? Is it like
Right.
5 times in the last 10,000?
Is it every other weekend? The freaking Space Wolves are getting into trouble again?
Weekend at Peonies.
Yes, that. Right? I don't know. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, once every 20 years would be enough to keep his legend alive in Fenrisian culture forever.
I think
Every generation gets a visit from Bjorn Halfhand, right?
right. I feel like 20 years is too short a time for that to be because Anita is like he's real. It's like
Yeah.
she's in her 40s. Like this would have been like, oh, I've seen this guy 3 times already. You know,
No, you're right. So it'd have to be at least like 100.
a couple hundred. I think.
500?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how long it would have to be for me to be like, I wasn't sure this dude is real.
Mm.
Not that I knew he was real and he's like holy to me. I didn't know he was real. That's a different thing.
Right.
That's gotta be 400? Like,
I mean, who 400 years ago? Who you, in today's terms, who was alive 400 years ago that you don't know was
yeah,
real?
right?
Like, because when you think of I don't know who's real, I'm thinking of like Aristotle is sometimes like considered to be like an amalgamation of like 4 or 5 different writers.
Yeah,
Sometimes Shakespeare, he's about 500 years ago. You know.
that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, just characters in history.
Mm. Who we don't know if they were like a single person or because
Or if they existed at all, if they're just a
Right.
legend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that goes way back in human history. The first people that were like, we're not sure if they're real at all is like Odysseus,
and
like
Abel.
Greek stuff.
yeah,
Who?
Cain and Abel.
Well, yeah, maybe not quite that
Not
far
far
back,
back.
but like Greek mythology.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, was Odysseus real? I don't know. Was
Homer
Helen
real?
of Troy a real person? I don't
Right.
know, man. Like the places are real, but we don't know if the people are. So
Yeah.
that's what, 4,000 years ago?
Ish, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it has been that long.
But I mean, I think because Anita
is-
says like you're real.
Yeah.
It could be that there's a bunch of different conflicting stories, and like, so I think someone like Shakespeare, who's the 17th century, right? Ish. So 400 years, I think, maybe is how often they're waking this person.
Yeah, I think 4 works.
Yeah.
I still think we have to go back further to be like, I'm not sure if you were alive at all.
Wow. I mean, that's
Right?
that's interesting because we're talking about a character who is like the mythology is. I don't know if you're real, and you were there at the start of our civilization 10,000 years ago. Like, who can we name from 10,000
Right.
years ago that existed?
Nobody.
Yeah.
That's Bible story stuff.
Right.
That's ancient
Gilgamesh.
Diluvian. Totally. That's Gilgamesh stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's the first? I learned about this in college. Who's the guy? It's the Epic of Gilgamesh. There's another one though that's a little bit less sprawling.
Google search for stories older than autocompletes to the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah. Oh, Beowulf. I was thinking
Beowulf?
Beowulf's a good one.
Sure.
Certainly. Yeah. Ancient Roman stuff, the Aeneid by Virgil, which is just a ripoff of Greek, the Odyssey.
Yeah.
The Iliad. Yeah, okay. I was thinking Beowulf as a good example. And Beowulf wasn't quite that long ago.
No.
When was Beowulf written? Internet says.
I mean, even the Epic of Gilgamesh, if we consider that to be one of the oldest written stories, it's still like 3000 BC, so that's only 5,000 years ago. That's
Yeah,
half the
and
time
Beowulf
we need for Bjorn.
totally
Yeah.
for this to work. And yeah, Beowulf is 10th century or 7th century BC.
Yeah.
So that's only, yeah, a
1500.
couple thousand, 3,000 years ago. Oh no, is this 80?
Oh, that's 80. Yeah,
Beowulf is 80. So yeah,
80.
so even less time. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think that works. I think Beowulf's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stories told about this ancient hero and the stuff that he did and the time he lived in, and
Yeah,
nobody really knows if he's a
but
person or not.
but for like I feel like the way that they treated Bjorn because he was there at like civilization start is more creation myth esque, right?
It is, yeah.
Um,
I know,
and
but I'm just saying the last time anybody saw him and talked to him,
mm, I
because that's another aspect. I think the aspect that he was there at the dawn of time
mm,
is one thing, but
but
the
when
other
the
thing
last
is
time
nobody
someone
has
talked to him,
seen him for long enough that we're not sure if he's a real dude.
right? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so the current Great Wolf isn't like, oh my god, you're Bjorn. He's like, oh hey,
Right.
it's been a while, and so we could,
Totally.
if we knew he was the Great Wolf for the last 400 years, I think they give him an age. That would be like the last time he was awoken, or at least somewhere
Right.
within that range, you know.
Right, right. Yeah.
So
I think that's about
four,
right.
500 years.
I think that's probably fair.
Mm.
Yeah, interesting to think about.
Yeah, very interesting.
Like who could pop up in modern day society and people will be like, hmm, I don't know.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the comparison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Jesus popped up in a dreadnought,
That's right up there with they put Lehman Russ in a dreadnought. They put Jesus in a dreadnought.
that's funny.
That is good. Ah, good stuff.
Yeah. All
So
right.
yeah,
Did you?
I felt the book got a lot better after I was like, it's Zale, it's Bjorn Halfhand. Whoa.
I, I mean, I think this book is tops all the way through. Like, I think it's really, really
Okay.
good. The audio narrator for this book knocks it out of the park. It's stellar performance. Um, it's
Doing
the
Fenrisian accents, I imagine, is a lot of fun.
it is, yeah, but also just like the
Yeah.
Grey Knights as like this, I don't know, kind of stoic, deep voice is it's phenomenal. He does an absolute enviable job. Like, so
Nice.
like, and I understand that that carries weight in the like in a listening. It's like how much do I enjoy the story versus how much did I just really dig the narration. Are two separate things that I'm not going to be able to untangle.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I really like everything about this book. Absolutely everything.
Yeah. I
My
mean, I liked the aspect of learning about the Grey Knights because I was interested about what the hell Malkador was doing on Titan. And this book's very much like, this is what he was doing.
Yeah.
Here it is. Yeah. So I appreciated that a lot.
Oh, you even get references to like founding grandmasters who we met in the end of the Horus Heresy, where it's like here is like Nemiel Galman who takes a new name, and like Loken didn't take a name and he was supposed to be, and like the Space Marine from the Thousand Suns who had like his soul merged with Magnus. There's one, but his statue is like starting to fade because it's a statue that's been around for 5,000 years or 10,000 years, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
starting to lose features. There's a lot of really cool hooks that we get.
So was this written before the Heresy was written?
This was 2012, so like kind of in the middle of it.
In the middle of it. Yeah, okay.
When
So
did,
there was
Horus Rising, when did that start? Horus Rising was 2006, so yeah, 6 years after the start of the Horus Heresy, so like in the middle of it, yeah.
right. So that's kind of fun. So you have some stuff that you can draw from the Heresy that's really fleshed out.
Yeah, so
And other stuff that you're just like, we know this guy existed. Let's just throw him on a
Right.
statue. Yeah.
yeah, and then someone else will figure out where he actually came from later. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting.
I think my final thought on the book is if we go back to Thorn wishes Talon, the Divine Fraternity have got this prophecy that like some giant demon called Slight will be a plague upon the universe or the galaxy or whatever. I now wonder if that's a twin prophecy of like the actual demon Slight and Thonius, and the demon to heretics that Hyperion will be as a prognosticator at the end. Because he's like this supremely powerful psyker, and we see a lot of really impressive psychic abilities. But he eventually takes over the role of prognosticator. By the end of the book, it's like 60 years later. And so we get the idea that he's doing the things like pulling people out of their skin and flying to Armageddon halfway across the galaxy in minutes to like scry. Like, as far as a prophecy that Slight will come and be like a real pain in the Divine Fratern's ass or other people's problem, Zael Efinetti or Zael Sleet is still there, still doing stuff. Like, the prophecy checks out, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I think it
will be for a long time.
I think it's a neat twist on that idea, that it's like a dual prophecy, even if it's not intended. I think that's something I like about it.
Oh, it's a fun idea. I do like Zael's consistent, like, I am going into people's brains and living as them for a while.
Right, yeah.
I want to know how regular people live. And his commander's like, stop doing that. Like, I know it's fun.
That is something Ravenor does. Like, he just like goes around. It's like things he picked up, I guess. I wouldn't say subconsciously, but they burnt out his mind or whatever, and like all his history. So does it still count? He kind of remembers Black Thrones, and he eventually pieces it at Ravenor's support chair. But like,
probably.
Old habits die hard, and I guess he picked that up, you know?
Yeah.
It's neat. I like it.
It is neat. All right, cool. Where are we going?
Oh, right. I guess we go back to your inquisitorial Dan Abnett with the Magos.
To the Kindle app.
Yep. The Magos. This is mostly an anthology and then one kind of medium story called The Magos, so it's confusing.
It's just called The Magos.
Yeah, the anthology is called The Magos, and then there's a story within The Magos called The Magos.
There's Eisenhorn Book 4 called The Magos.
That's it. Check the
Is this the anthology, or is this the...
Check the description, see if it has a bunch of books. It should be the anthology. I can't imagine it not. You didn't already buy this book, did you?
No, I don't think so. Oh, here we go. For the first time ever, the Black Library presents the definitive casebook of Gregor Eisenhorn, collecting all of Dan Abnett's celebrated Inquisitor short stories into a single epic volume.
Yep.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Okay.
So this does have some short stories that you've already read.
Okay.
Such as Perihelion, or Talon Wishes Thorn, or Playing Patience. So we could probably skip talking about those.
Right. Good call.
There are a bunch of other really interesting ones that I feel like all kind of set up something interesting that then all come together in the Magos. So it's a little more than just like a collection of stuff. Like, each of them have something that ties into the main story at the end. It's really good. I thoroughly enjoy this book. It's also Dan Abnett writing Gregor Eisenhorn in 2018, so it's you had issues when he was like a little novice writer with his first book in like 2001.
Okay, so it's a character that I've had issues with that is being written better now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Probably
I like
not,
that.
Probably not perfectly, as in this is a collection of short stories. So like Pestilence, the first book, according to the wiki, was still written in 2001 and it's being collected. But the Magos the Magos bit will be,
some of it's old.
Some of it's old, most of it's new.
Got it.
Huzzah.
Okay, sounds good. Huzzah, we win.
Yep. Alrighty, wrapping up.
Well, let's wrap it up. That's going to be it from us. This has been Falcon Paladin and Somicron with another edition of the Falcon Paladin Hour, stream live at twitch.tv/Somicron every Monday night or Tuesday. If you are on the other side of the world, you can also find us at youtube.com/@Somicron. That's where the VODs end up. And you can support the podcast by buying merch at falconpaladin.store and by going to patreon.com/Somicron and signing up to pledge there. So thanks again for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed all the talk about StarCraft and TV shows and movies and
Hmm.
Invincible and Reacher and Warhammer that we always get around to. So we'll be back with more of it if you want more. Until then, you take care of yourself.
Bye.
Bye.